everyone. It's good to see so many folk on the call here. Probably most of you are now aware that we've established a task force. The fundamental principle behind it is really about improving how we deliver projects. I mean, I think all of us in all our different industry sectors all deliver projects to various degrees of success. And unfortunately, I think all of us, when we look at our own performance in our own sectors, there's vast room for improvement. And I think many of us have been frustrated as time goes on that we're not making big inroads into productivity improvements. We're not making the best use of technology. We're getting the same result over and over and over again. And you know, one of the things within the task force white paper that I'll come on to briefly is just how poor our performance is right across the sectors, and there's no one particular industry that's great or poor. We're all not great, and there's loads of room for improvement. So the task force has come together. It's a group of people, experienced people that have delivered projects over many years. There are the best minds in academia on this. There's government departments that are really interested in helping all sectors of the community, project community, in delivering better and guiding that process through. And there are also big project associations that all have an interest in just driving an improvement forward. So they're all volunteers. We're all volunteers, and what we're trying to do here is trying to get a sense of what good looks like at the fundamental level. So how can we use analytics, data analytics, new technology, new ways of thinking to change how we view project predictability and project success? The outcome is all about predicting better outcomes, predicting more sustainable outcomes at the right time. So the people that own the cash at the end of the day, that are funding these projects, have a much better understanding of what they're getting out at the end of the day. We launched in September. It's open to everyone. The community have come together because of a vested interest. But if folk want to take part, we really encourage you to reach out to us. I'll give you a web address in a minute to where you can sign up. But we're really looking forward to getting as many people involved and really shape the dialogue, shape how we've set out on a journey to actually start turning this into reality. And fundamentally, it's about making a big improvement in delivery performance, and that's what this is all about. Thanks, Martin. So there is a white paper written there. There's a little graphic missing on the right hand side there, Martin. I'm not sure if that's another click away, or here we go. Brilliant. So there is a white paper being written, and the white paper essentially sets out the business case. And I'm deliberately using that term, the business case. There are a small group of people that really get this. They understand why this is important, and that group has been growing steadily over the years. And there are a large community of people that don't quite understand what we're trying to get to with this. So the white paper tries to pull everything together at a reasonably high level to provide a bit of guidance, a bit of inspiration, hopefully, as to where we're going to go with this journey. And it's a call to action. It's a call to action. It's wanting you guys, your organizations, anyone that's sort of progressive thinker in this space, to sign up to it, to get involved, to help the wider community in solving problems for the greater good. And people might say, well, there's a commercial advantage in some of this. Why would I give some of this away? And Martin and the team have got a really good response to that. And quite simply, anything that can be done in a 2-day hackathon has very little commercial value. If it can be done by a couple of individuals that maybe have never come together before over a weekend, it can be done by anyone. It can be done by our companies, it can be done by your companies, it can be done by students in university. It can be done by anybody. So if we get the foundations right, and then start building a bigger picture and sharing good knowledge, we will all help each other to improve project performance and our professional reputation as a result. So the website, the top right, PDA Task Force, you'll pick it up as soon as you put that into your web browser. Martin. So a lot of thought went into how we deliver this. And as you can see, we've broken down the how into 6 groups of things to do. And each one of those groups there were volunteers came forward, and basically two people from the task force agreed to run each one of those. So separate 2 people in each one of these. Martin and I are focusing on solutions development, but there are others from academia, other industries, etc., who are focusing on the other ones. And if you or your organization have a particular leaning towards one or the other, might be multiple, please do get in touch and make a preference as to which you want to get involved with. Solutions development, we're leading with solutions development because it's tangible. It's something that if we get some solutions on the table, you as individuals can take that to your people in your organizations and say, look, these guys have done this in 2 days. Look, are you aware that we can do this? It opens people's minds to what's out there. And that's what we want to do. We want to give you the opportunity to take some ideas to your organization, get your organization involved, come back to us and take part in this overall journey. Okay, thanks, Martin. So why do we need this? This isn't, I certainly don't want this to be an academic study. I don't want this to be a science experiment. For me, we are backing this heavily because we want to use practical analytics to solve real world problems. They're all around us, but quite often the fact that we don't know there's something that can be solved because we've never thought of it as a problem before. And that comes back to making the tenfold improvement. None of us know what good looks like. None of us have the full range of answers. So if we can learn from each other, we get inspiration from each other, we can really start to make a difference as to where we can gather insights and actually turn those insights into meaningful actions, which is something I'm particularly keen on going on a journey with this. And we want to give you that ability to take it to your wider organization and say, this is how we do, this is the roadmap for us improving our project performance. And that's good for your organization. Hopefully it builds some competitive advantage for you, but also it's good for the wider community. Thanks, Martin. So my perspective is really the easiest and the best place to start is on commercially sensitive data that is governed by a common regulatory framework, and that's safety. And that is something that is particularly relevant to us in the energy industry. Most of our work when we send the guys into the field is done in very remote and very hazardous working environments. And whilst there are some nice greenfield environments where you're installing a wind farm and putting a big effectively a substation in the water, or you're actually doing a really dirty brownfield intervention on a live asset that is hundreds of miles from anywhere, and is effectively a floating bomb. And if you get something wrong, it's going to go boom, and everyone's going to get really, upset, and rightly so. So safety for us in this industry in particular is critically important. It's for everyone, but it's critically important. We just can't afford to get it wrong. And we've got mountains of safety information, and we typically report safety and we look over our own shoulder. We record things that have happened in the past. but there isn't much of a science about, well, what do you need to do in the future? How can you predict the next safety event? And being quite blunt, when we estimate a job, when each of us estimate a job, we have enough information as individuals, as organizations, to know that that particular type of job, because you're installing so much cubic meters of concrete or tonnage of steel or meters of cable, we know the chances of an incident. So at the very point in time in which you're creating an estimate, you've actually got a good correlation into where the incident is likely to occur. And then you can do something about it. Now, we all have that, and there are 100 other use cases in the safety environment that we can get after. But fundamentally, that's a really obvious one. But most of our organizations have a very small data set. So can we share some good use cases of how to predict a future safety event? And can we share our data to make a bigger pot of data, draw on the experience of others to help shape, form, and improve our models to make sure that our workforce is kept safer as the days go on. So safety is a great one, and we can jump another slide, please, Martin. We ran many of the Hack 7 was much of the Hack 7, for those of you who took part, was around safety. It was a big safety theme. There was a lot of COVID stuff in there. There was a lot of stuff about predicting the next safety event. There was about data collection and apps. So how can you quickly gather data from the field, safety related data, incidents, near misses, and start to almost get real time analytics going. And one of the images that we have here was looking for correlations between the level of competence, the training certificates, the certificates that the guys hold in the field. Is there a correlation between those expiring and an incident happening in the field? Is there a correlation between a sickness rate and an incident in the field? Is there a correlation between, general day-to-day training, production losses? What correlations are there in our data? And is it cyclical? Does it peak at certain times of the year? And when is that? And all of these things combine together to give us a sense of where an incident is most likely to happen. Is one particular plant more predisposed to safety in a particular trade? All of that, we've now got an ability with that data set that you see in front of you to analyze, which is fantastic in 2 days. It's absolutely brilliant. And we can do a lot more of that with a bigger data set and help a lot more people. Jump on again, please, Martin. So kind of bringing this slowly to a close from my perspective, if you envisage the project life cycle, right from the point in time in which you're trying to build the business case in appraise, through the early concept work, into feed, and then into engineering, procurement, and construction, we have hundreds of people involved in that project life cycle, hundreds. And each one of those people come and go in the project life cycle. They're not there for the whole length of it, but they all have needs to help them predict what better looks like. And that use case for a safety advisor or a safety manager or a project manager or the guy at the site, the supervisor at site, the use case for safety in that case is different for all these different roles. So just taking safety in its own right, across that whole project life cycle, safety changes. It moves from sort of technical safety, your engineering out safety, right the way through to delivering safety at site. The use case changes. So there are hundreds of different solutions to be developed across the project lifecycle and across all the roles that we have on the project. And we're really, really embryonic. But what we want to do is we want to get to what these use cases are and then visually map where we've got maturity and where we have nothing, where we've got a hole, and where we've got a proof of concept. And if we can create that map, hopefully you guys can get involved and say, right, actually, I've got a data set and I've got a problem and I want to solve it. And then the next group of people that say, I've got the same problem. Has there anything been done in that space before? Oh, yeah. And these are the guys that did it, and I can have a conversation with them. So if we can open that up and get the conversation going, we can start to build this network, this matrix of solutions. Thanks, Martin. So summarizing, I think none of us have got the answer to this. not one organization, not one individual, but together we just become so much more powerful in sharing ideas, sharing a little bit of non-sensitive data, especially those within a common regulatory framework that we can get some commonality in there. And really by doing that and sharing this best practice rather than treating things in silos, we really will start to get different insights into how we deliver projects. And I think that's critically important. And no one else is doing this at the moment. This is very much a ground-up initiative. It's not top-down. That many of the big existing organizations aren't doing this yet, and they're kind of looking at us thinking, there's something in this, but I'm not quite sure what yet. And they're all kind of waiting and seeing. But it just makes sense. I often talk about things. If someone puts a presentation in front of me or something, I talk about, does it pass a laugh test? I.e., am I gonna walk out of here, or the people I'm presenting to, are you going to walk out of here and start laughing and saying that guy's on cloud cuckoo land? If it passes that test, and I think this undoubtedly does in my mind, if it passes that test, then we're onto something. And that test needs to be applied for every single one of these solutions that we're looking to deliver against. Right, Martin, thank you. I probably went a little bit over my time slots.
Oh,
no
superb.
doubt.
That was really good, Alex. Thank you for that. So you set the scene. That's really great. Thank you, Alex. And it's a pleasure to be working with you on this. So what we want to do is get more people involved with this. Let's keep building it out and building it out and building it out. So just to let you know where we are at the moment. So we got a lot of volunteers coming forward, and there's been some debate inside of the task force about the best way to engage those people. And we sorted that out finally this morning. And I do apologise it's taken so long. There's a draft email about to go to all of you. It's been sent to a couple of us this afternoon, but I've been teaching on the apprenticeship this afternoon, so I've not quite got around to it. But as soon as I've finished this, I'll be responding to the workstream leads on the community engagement, and there should be something going out in the next 24 to 48 hours, hopefully. So what we'd like to do is start to pull you into shaping this. So the solutions development workstream is a lot bigger than just solutions. So we need to look at the problem space, so we're developing the right solutions. So let me go on to scope next, if I may. So in terms of scope, what we're trying to do is these things here. So the first one is to define and capture and integrate this requirements backlog. So we started off with health and safety, but we can expand that in multiple directions. We can take it into sustainability. We can take it into things like net zero. We can take it into risk scheduling, any way you want to take it to. What we also need to do is develop the business case for collaborative solutions development. So what that means is that some organizations saying, oh, I'm not quite sure if I should be involved in this. I've got lots of commercial advantage in my data. I don't want to pool it. I've knocked up a solution, in a weekend that's going to do this, and I'm going to sell it to loads of people. So I don't want to participate in this because it's going to take away my commercial advantage from selling a thing I've developed. So we need to keep the business case building up and building up and building up to show that there's a lot more value in the round from everyone working together collaboratively and driving this forward. What we also want to do as part of this is to democratize the methods, the tools, the code, and the solutions. And if we can do that in a modular way, then you can pick them up and do something with it. And what we also want to do is to focus on this open source development. So if you want to pick some code up and go and tailor it and fork it for your own benefits, then please do so. And that's where we want to be playing, basically. We've got to develop a marketplace so we can host all of this stuff and you can go and access it. And we're just talking to Microsoft at the moment about the best way to do that. So Microsoft have been embedded in a lot of stuff that we're doing. So we've been working with them since the first hack, and they really support us. They're involved in the data trust as well. So they're right behind what we're doing, and they're very, very keen because of their open source initiative to get involved in the marketplace as well. And what we're trying to do as well is to work on these principles and good practice. So I think we're seeing through the hackathons is there's some things not to do, like jumping straight in, and the principles about starting off with a use case and breaking that down, etc., working it so we've got modular code, a well-documented code, etc., is all the good practice that we need to be working to. We also need to work on ontologies. So it's the framework, the way that data connects together, taxonomies, dictionaries, and all of that sort of stuff. So some of that's going to come out of the data quality work stream, and some of it's going to be spinning up from this work stream. So in terms of a capability spectrum, so I've put this up as a bit of an answer, Sally, as a first draft, is to show you the sort of thing we're thinking. So we see, in terms of capability spectrum, over the next 5 or 10 years, we'd like to go from 0 up to 10. So where we are at the moment is somewhere between 0 and 3, and that depends on the organization that you're working in. So we'd like to work on standard Microsoft services, so all the Power Suites, basically, dashboards, apps, data pipelines, automation, data engineering, and get the fundamentals in place. And that's what a lot of the apprenticeship is all focused on, is making sure that people can do a lot of the fundamentals and to get us going. So once we've got that going, we can start to do all the clever stuff, which is 4 to 8, right? And these numbers are quite arbitrary, they've not come from anywhere, I haven't got any definitions of them, it's more conceptual. So it's then to move into these integrated pipelines and get the apps all talking to other, get the data connected and start to link it back to the ontology, start to move into machine learning, project data analytics as a platform type approach, where inside of your organization you start to join data together, and then start to work up some niche capabilities and this thing we called narrow artificial intelligence. And then in due course, we can move towards these massive data sets that will be coming out of the data trust and various other places as well. So we can then start to move artificial intelligence into every process. And that means getting rid of a lot of the grunt work that we probably shouldn't be doing and the stuff you don't like to do, and to move us up the value chain. And when we move up the value chain, where we get better at predictions, and project management then will be less about putting fires out and going around and reporting on what happened last week, and it'll be a lot more future gazing on what could go wrong and saving money, driving up productivity, and doing the most efficient project that we can. So I think that's pretty cool vision, really. Now, I want the community to build on this, as a concept. Is this the right concept? So that's why it's a draft, and I'd like people involved with our work stream and to shape this. So me and Alex have not got all the answers, we've got the concept, so we need you to help us now to shape this. So in terms of 0 to 3 level capabilities, Alex has made the point already, in terms of commercial considerations. If something can be developed in 2 days or even less than 2 weeks, it's got very low commercial value, right? It's a very low cost of entry. And it's got very limited commercial value for vendors as well. So you'll probably find as we start to train up project data analysts, you're going to struggle to sell this stuff because they can self-serve a lot of it. So instead of people working up 100 separate solutions, all doing very similar things, then let's just develop 1 or 2 and do 100 separate things instead of 100 things which are the same. It means we go at 100 times the speed, or maybe 50 times the speed. In the aggregate, if we're looking at doing all of these things, it's really expensive. If you want to do 100 separate things, it's really expensive. If we can do them together, it becomes really cost effective to do so. But you can't do them at the moment because a lot of organizations have not got the core skills, and we're developing those through the community. And that's what it's all about, is upskilling everybody so we can drive this vision. So we can move 2 orders of magnitude quicker by working together. So that's the overall proposition. So these are the principles, right? So I've just talked through some of them. So it's about working together for the collective benefit. Now, everyone's not going to be happy with that. I know there's people out there who want to go it alone because they've got commercial products to spin out of that, and that's perfectly fine, perfectly fine. I think there's going to be other organizations who are part of this and are driving this forward who will go faster. So you may sort of might have a commercial edge in the short term, but in the longer term, they will overtake you just because of critical mass with data and critical mass in terms of a collective investment in this thing. What we want to do is pool our requirements and solve them together and start to drive this open sourcing of all of these solutions. I've talked about adapting, forking, and tailoring those solutions as well. I'm not talking about giving everything away, because some of this is pretty high-end stuff as well. And if it's high-end stuff, which is the 4 to 8 or the 9 to 10 stuff, it's probably got a lot of commercial value, and it's premium, and it needs to be trained on big data sets that you need to clean up and associate with other data sets, etc. It's going to take a lot of investment. So we need to make space for that, because if it's not commercially viable, we will cut off investment, and this won't move beyond 3, right? So we need to make sure these commercial models will perform. So there's some companies out there, and I'm very conscious the companies out there are a key part of the community who we need to support to enable them to develop commercial propositions. We need to develop these shared taxonomies and ontologies, and that's going to spin out of the data quality work stream, but the ontology also needs to sit with the requirements ontology. So we'll be driving that forward. We need to take away these barriers to deployment as well. So there's lots of things standing in the way. So you'll find IT standing in the way. There's some of the Microsoft licensing and various other things is standing in the way of us doing this. So if we can work together and create the arguments and to present the case collectively, we will start to knock down these barriers and will encourage broader adoption. So we're building the case for change collegiately, all sharing that case for change. So instead of every organization writing 500 business cases, then let's just write a few and keep adapting them for your organization. So in terms of democratization, the more we get out there, the quicker everybody moves, the more proficient we all become, the greater the data volumes. So if we think about the health and safety app, if everyone's using the same apps and it's tailored to your environment, it means that it flows all the way down your supply chain. Everybody's going to be using it because it's effectively free, and we drive up the data quality. So that means we get more data to do the top end stuff, machine learning. I don't think that you can ever ultimately predict the next health and safety incident, because it is human error. There's some unpredictability to it. You know, it's like Sod's law, some of it, right? Now, we can't take away safety incidents. What we can do is do as much as we possibly can to mitigate them and to understand the predisposition to safety incidents. And if we've done the best we can do, then we can't ask for any more than that. So we move quicker as well. So we stop hanging around in this 0 to 3 space. We accelerate through that very, very quickly and start to get into the really clever stuff. So we see a lot more benefits in collaborating together, and we mobilize the power of the crowd. So we talked about the apprenticeship, and there were about 50 people there over the weekend from the apprenticeship in the hackathon. Now, just imagine by the end of 2021, there's going to be hundreds of people on this project data analytics apprenticeship. All those people have got to support the hackathon as well, because it's part of their training. All those people are solving industry facing challenges. That attracts sponsorship that starts to drive a great engagement from the high-end data professionals. So we get more and more of those people engaging. So that means we solve more and more problems, and we create an army, a community-driven army that really starts to inspire this change. And it's all facilitated in collaboration with Microsoft, because Microsoft is a tool of choice for a lot of organizations, because it's part of your 365 environment. You're moving into the Power Apps environment. And for some organizations, that's depressing because it's a monopolistic situation. And I don't like that personally, but it's just reality of business life at the moment. So we need to be careful about squeezing out other vendors, but we sort of need to recognize the realities of where we are at the moment. For most organizations, they are integrated with the Microsoft suite. So I think if we all move together, then we finish up with hundreds of people who's working on these challenges every 4 months. And we might start to increase the tempo of this as well. So somebody's reached out to me in the past sort of 8 hours or so saying, they've been pretty inspired by this. Can we run a dedicated hack on the planning challenges, for instance? And there might be another one for rail and for this, whatever. So we can start to then solve these sector level challenges by deploying all of this capability and enabling all these industries to move a lot quicker together. And if we can increase the prize pot as well, it means everyone's benefiting from it, you know, and you get the glory on LinkedIn and it goes on your CV, etc. So it works for everybody. So in terms of the requirements, what we need to do is to get this requirements and data ontology. So we've got a requirements graph. So when I talk about a graph, I mean the network of connected data. So we've got all the requirements, we've got a data model which underpins it, and we're going to have a data trust which underpins that. So that's where the data sits. So we need to start to join things together. So I've finally drawn this up. You know, I've been drawing this for a few people recently on my whiteboard with my pen, and now I've started to draw it up. So at the bottom, we've got your requirements that break down into use cases, that break down into user stories, and all of those are underpinned by pain points or maybe opportunities. And the pain points, if you can aggregate them, that justifies the investment because that tells you the pain across lots of different companies. The thing about the pain points is that sensitive data because it'll tell you where you've lost money or where you've had an incident or whatever, where you've been sued, etc. You don't necessarily want to put that into the public domain. Now, if you think about the solutions, some of those solutions are going to be open source. Some of them are going to be freemium type products where you put some extra features on it, and some of them will be out and out commercial products. So we need to think about those as well. Then we need to think about the data. So the data is going to be structured through the ontology and the taxonomies. Part of that is going to be driven into the data trust, and part of it is going to be driven into the corporate cloud. The corporate cloud sits behind firewalls and it sits in your organization. So what we're trying to do here basically is we're trying to join together the requirements with the data and with the solutions. And once we start to do that, we can start to iterate and iterate and iterate and to move up this ladder and just get better and better and better. And the faster we can accelerate that, the better. So what we'd like to do basically inside of the rectangle there is the stuff that we would like to open source basically and work together on. The stuff on the dotted line or outside of the rectangle is the stuff which has got some sensitivity associated with it. So with the data trust, for instance, we're very keen to pool the data, but it doesn't mean open up all the data because some of that has got prices and costs in it and day rates and all sorts of stuff, especially if we start to work on requirements associated with productivity. So we can't open source that data, but there are ways of bringing those solutions to the data so you can access the data without exposing the data. And there's different ways of doing that. And we're investigating that through the data trust at the moment. So that's pretty cool. So that's where we want to collaborate, and that's where there's commercial sensitivity. So what we've got is now we start to form this ecosystem of joined together solutions, requirements, and data. And once we get the requirements graph start to build out, and you can all see it, that's going to drive your own roadmaps and your own development pipelines. It's going to form the basis of innovation proposals for companies because they'll say this is something that's coming out of the task force, so it's almost endorsed because it's now a collegiate requirement that we all want to work on. And if we're shaping that through the task force, then great, you know, everyone can work on it together and you can pick out the bits. And it means we don't have 8 people across industry all trying to work on the same thing. At the moment, there's so much white space here. And I look at some organizations and they're competing in a very, very small area. So if we look at the moment, BIM and the cameras in BIM, so Build.Ots, Disperse, Contilio and those sort of companies, they're all fighting in a really, really small area. And over here is all white space and nobody's in it. So let's just flatten that out and give lots of people in the UK an opportunity to fight in all that other space, develop commercial solutions, especially top end ones, and they'll start to really perform. So I think that's massively exciting. Now, unfortunately, this lot doesn't sit in isolation. So it'd be quite easily to resolve that if we just look through our lens, but it doesn't work like that. So what we've got to do, we've got to link in with things like corporate reports. So you can't have a solution that sits by itself because you need to integrate it with loads of other things across your organization. You need to link it to BIM, digital twins, finance and HR, etc., etc., etc. So we've got to make sure that we integrate those architectures together. Now, what I'm conscious about, because I tried to do this in a previous job, is to try and get this massive architecture in place. And in my experience, and I welcome a conversation about it, it doesn't work. A big bang architecture is too hard, especially in this space when everything is moving all the time, right? So it's an emergent problem. So I think it needs to be done in more of an agile way. So we work through the list of requirements, the use cases and the user stories, and try and solve those one by one and start to increment out this ontology and the data system that goes with it. And it means we're validating as we go, which is really cool. So we go through that verification and validation process where we keep on feeding back. So we don't just do this big architecture in isolation of the solutions and the data set. So I think it's all about collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. Next slide is on the enablers in terms of the software. So I think the first step is just leveraging that Microsoft platform. And then as we start to get into this sort of integrated data set, we need to move up the stack and start to move into Databricks and things like that and start to get a lot smarter about the way we manage our data. And not many organizations doing that at the moment. We're sticking things in SharePoint and SharePoint lists and maybe a little bit of SQL, etc. So we need to think a lot bigger than that. There's not many organizations who's yet in that space, but I think it's going to come in the next 18 months or so. And once again, that opens up opportunities for a lot of people as well. So don't just see this democratization as closing down opportunities for vendors. It's opening up a huge amount of opportunities for vendors as well, because we just think differently about the problem and we all accelerate to this level 4 I've been talking about. And the 9 to 10 is we start to get into this integrated and cross-sector data and artificial intelligence space. And that's where the magic happens. And I'm really looking forward to that. So we talk about open source, so we talk about common tools, common taxonomies, increasing data volumes. Our organizational data volumes grow and they start to connect these disparate data sets together. And we provide an opportunity to sort of connect the data with this community-owned data trust. And the data trust is not owned by anybody. It's not somebody who's trying to get all of your data and flog it and go and exit in a few years' time and make billions of pounds off the back of it. It's going to be owned by the membership of the data trust. So if it's your data, it's your data. Nobody can take it off you. So what we're saying is it's access for all, and the level of access is going to be defined by the data owners based on the sensitivity. So just to drill in some things that we've done over the weekend. So this was one team that come up with some apps, right? And they looked at a dashboard and they worked out a pipeline of future developments. Now, they knocked this up in 2 days, right? So if we can start to open source inside of probably 2 hacks or maybe 3 hacks, or we do some work offline as well, an entire health and safety suite, and we open source it and it flows into every single sector and we give it all away, how cool would that be? We'd save lives. We'll save hundreds of lives. And that is brilliant. And that's all down to you guys, yeah? It's all of you pulling together to make this thing happen. Nobody's going to commercially benefit out of it. And I know there's some companies out there who's probably going to lose a cash cow because they've got a little product at the moment that's doing this, but it's just too easy to do this now, right? Because Microsoft's bringing out these services, it's very, very easy to do. And organizations don't want an app with one dashboard on it and another app with another dashboard on it and another app with another dashboard on it. They just want one set of dashboards. And that tends to sit in Power BI or Tableau or something like that. And they want all these data fields flowing into one dashboard. So the days of apps and dashboard app and a dashboard app and a dashboard, I think we've got to move on from it. And I know that's uncomfortable, but I think it's just progress. Diversity and welfare. So another team did this at the weekend, and I think it's the basis to build on. Now, I've got some feedback from people who were judges. So we had 19 judges as part of the hackathon. And as part of those 19 judges, 2 or 3 of them have given me some written feedback as well. So they think there's something in this. It's not quite nailed yet, but if we start to build this out, then we've got a diversity, a welfare app. Now, this doesn't give anybody a commercial edge, right? This is good for society. So why do this 100 times in loads of different organizations? It's complete madness. Let's just do it once or twice and start to knock it out. Everybody uses something similar. You can tailor it to your organization, but let's just do it and get the innovation out of the way in terms of the layout and things like that, and move it forward, all working together. Our final one is in terms of predicting this loss-making project. So this was the winner over the hackathon. And this is pretty cool, right? Once again, if they've done this in 2 days, now it's not quite nailed yet because there's some issues with the data and various other stuff, but it's got the basis now to go into loads of organizations. If we can predict what the loss-making projects are, right, we start to turn around the financial performance of these companies. We drive up GDP. If the products become, if these projects become more profitable, then we can look at productivity and reinvest, which means more jobs, etc., 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 etc. So it's good for everybody. So let's start to get this stuff out there. It's really cool. And there's another one about planning. So a couple of guys produced this in a weekend, right? They're fresh off the apprenticeship, just started it recently, and they're knocking up this sort of stuff. And what was really good about this was these guys understood the context. So they've got domain context and understood the questions they were trying to solve, and they brought some capability to it. And it's just fairly standard Power BI, and there's not a lot of machine learning at the back of it, but we can bring that in. So we can modularize it and put more and more and more in. We'll democratize this, and we can give it away, and we can all build on it. So there's some examples to inspire you about what the art of the possible is and how all of us together will change the shape of project delivery forever. And that's in your gift. It's for you to make this stuff happen. So in terms of the insights from that data, you know, it took 2 days to develop. It's easy if you know how, and low code is making it a lot easier. So Microsoft's really focusing on driving code out of this and making it sort of plug and play. As I said before, it's not really commercial edge from this stuff. It's stuff we should all be working to the greater good on. So why not drive an ethos of collaboration? So I said before, this is disruptive, and we understand it's going to disrupt traditional vendors. And I do acknowledge that. I'm not flying blind into this. And I know there's people who's going to suffer as a consequence. But in the round, everybody's going to benefit in the round. And there's going to be some people who's probably going to lose out. But it's a case of adapting and working together to really drive out those opportunities and to give you sort of more opportunities to build up solutions once we've amalgamated all of those requirements. So you never had that before. You never had access to the data before. So we're facilitating all of that and giving you a bigger platform which to innovate. Don't innovate on the easy stuff, the commodity stuff. Innovate on the clever stuff, because that's where you're going to add a lot of value. So I'll give an example about NPlan. We can't knock up NPlan stuff in a weekend, right? They've got PhDs who's been working on it for years. So that's not the space we're looking at playing in. And we need to leave space for those sort of organizations to really come up with innovation. So the short-term objectives, this is what we set ourselves. So we want to agree the principles for the work stream and the challenges that we're trying to tackle, and to prove out these principles. So we start to do that, and we had some great success at the hack this weekend. And in terms of longer term objectives, if we want to grow this beyond health and safety, we want to do this with the apprenticeships and anybody else who wants to be involved, develop out those requirements, the use cases, the user stories, firm up the challenges, and start to get a backlog of stuff we can push into the hacks and beyond. I've agreed to take on 20 Kickstarters to, so these people who are long-term unemployed and government pays their wages for 6 months. So I'm going to take on 20 of them, and I'd like a big chunk of those to be working on this pipeline of stuff that we give away. It gives them experience, it gets them into this arena. Hopefully there's some people in the community who's going to give them a job at the end of it, because they're then they're skilled in these capabilities. They can come and work for you, and they can adapt these open source solutions for your organizations. Developing the business case, and we're going to be working with Microsoft to host these solutions. So that's all in train. And people say, so why are we doing this? You know, this is just throwing money away. We've got to look at it in the round, and you've got to look at the opportunities in the aggregate. Don't just look at them incrementally. And projecting success have been invested a humongous amount of effort into this, right? And it's been a long burner. There's been 3 years of meager rations, but we do see, right, this is transformational stuff, and it's what gets you up in the morning. And for us, right, the opportunity to change the world in project data analytics is phenomenal, and it's great to be involved in it. So if you want to get involved, join the solutions development workstream. So go to pdataskforce.com and contact us, or contact me on my LinkedIn, and I'll reach out to you, or Alex will reach out to you as well, and we'll get involved, and we'll pull you in, and we'll work up the requirements, we'll work up the ontology and all that stuff I showed you with the triangle on it, and drive it forward. It's hard, right? It's really hard to do all that stuff, join it all together, but it's a multi-year journey. It's not something you can crack in 6 months. So I believe we're on a journey of about 5 years now, and we'll keep iterating through and iterating through and iterating through. So let's collaborate on requirements definition, provide these hack challenges, collaborate on a development of solutions. And if you're spinning up your own solutions, then bring it to the party, and we can just share it with everybody else. So we want to build on existing solutions as well if people have got them out there. This is not just about the project data analytics community have got all the answers. I'm sure lots of other people out there have got some really cool stuff. So let's bring it to the party, and let's democratize it, give you credit for it, and build on it. So that's it, guys. Is there any questions out there? Anybody got any questions? Anything you want to discuss? If you want to come off mute, then please have a chat with us.
Martin, just one thing from me. I think when we're asking people to contribute, I think have it in your mind, if you are thinking about contributing, that your level of contribute will be reasonably finite. It'll be a small amount of contribution in the big picture, but if you contribute, you get so much more back in return. So I'm just sitting here, and I wasn't one of the judges on the diversity inclusion app. I'd love to have that. I'd love to pass that into my my wider organization and say to the guys, what do you think of this? Do you want to adopt this? Do you want to spend a little bit of time and help the team improve this? Why wouldn't they? Really, why wouldn't they? So it just sparks these ideas that I would never have thought about on my own. And suddenly I've got a great idea that I can take back to the business. Why wouldn't I do that? So by investing a little bit of time, each and every one of us will get so much more back. And I think take that away into your organizations, because I think it's a really powerful message.
Yeah, cool. So have you got any questions? I've not managed to read chat tonight. Is there much on chat, Matt?
I believe the only thing we've got is from Andrew Dickinson, just saying you can predict when to increase H&S surveillance and reinforce safety culture. But apart from that, it's been a little bit from Braden Ryan in terms of about the hack challenges and sort of maybe we should, maybe you've done it before, but how about limiting the data problems to have many teams explore different solutions to the same challenge?
Cool. Yeah, brilliant. Breda, welcome.
Hello.
Any feedback from you as well, because you were a judge on some of these as well. Any feedback? Any
It was so difficult to judge. Oh my God. But well done to everybody. I found it really challenging. I played those videos repeatedly and going, oh my God, am I being fair? Am I being realistic? And then I had to go look up and Google some of the data models and statistics they were using because they blew my mind. So Honestly, I thought the effort and contribution was quite impressive over the weekend, and very interesting to see how people diligently solve those problems together. That for me is very impressive. Pan sector, pan industry, all the badges at the door, and that industry collaboration really brings it home. And you can see the results, they're fabulous.
Yeah, cool. And any thoughts about this sort of overall initiative, the way that Jacobs want to be involved in it?
Yes, we're working on that. I don't know if my colleague Alex is on the call tonight, but he's put a good business case together for me for the data trust, and then we have another session in the pipeline for where we take it next with our vice president support.
Cool. Yeah, brilliant.
But it is good, and really pleased with the apprentices' participation over the weekend and some of the other people who are not on the apprentice team who put a huge amount of effort in. So yeah. I'm super proud of everyone.
And got third place as well. You know, Katie's in there. Smashed it.
Well done.
Yeah. Anybody else? Mark, you just popped up. Are you on mute, Mark, I think?
Sorry, still on mute. Yeah, no, I thought the weekend was fantastic. Actually, I was really impressed. I judged a few of them, and same comment. It was just really hard to pick between them. It's very impressive. So yeah, and as Alex was saying, it does. You know, when you contribute to this kind of effort, it gives you ideas on things that you can do back in your business, which is really exciting. You know, we've got one apprentice working now, Teddy, who was in one of the challenges, and yeah, she's starting to really make a difference in terms of what we're doing with some data. So yeah, it's really exciting stuff. Really good.
Anybody else? Any more questions? Any contributions to make? Anything you want to say? Any involvement in this big vision? Do you agree, disagree, we're doing it wrong?
I think it's a fantastic vision. And I think choosing health and safety is a spot on strategy, because if there's nothing that draws every player in the industry together like improving safety performance, not just in infrastructure, but you know, the offshore industry, you know, the petrochem and pharmaceutical, it's just going to draw everyone together, and no one should be holding back data that could eventually, you know, save lives or reduce serious injuries.
Yeah,
I think we are obliged to. We have to.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and I think if we open source this entire tool set, which is going from safety audits to observations and taking photographs and stuff, you know, there's so many things we can apply to it. Just brilliant. Really cool. Gareth, you've popped up.
Yeah, so it's like whack-a-mole, isn't it? Just building on what Andrew had said in terms of the kind of the moral obligation, and it's so absolutely clear from a health and safety point of view. But then you can take that into sustainability and all of the challenges that we face around carbon reduction, and from there you can start thinking about productivity and health and well-being for people, and good quality jobs, and it just keeps on going and going in terms of the opportunities. So yeah, no, I've just yeah, thank you for sort of sharing that vision with us, Matt.
Cool.
And Alex.
It's a gift that keeps on giving, I think. You know, so as long as you're playing it, you'll get 20 times back. So let's just spread the word, you know, and just get a load of people involved in this. Let's get a movement. You know, we've got 6,500 people sort of in the community. Some of those are just lurking around the edges, and we've got some active participants as well. So yeah, it's down to us to make it happen. You know, it's not me, it's not you, it's all of us working together to do some really cool stuff. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Please go on LinkedIn tonight and just set the place on fire. And to those people who's won, celebrate your achievements, because it's really impressive what you've achieved. You know, really impressive. Yeah, you should be proud of yourselves.